What's up and welcome to the video. So we have talked Galaxy S22, we've talked S22 Plus, and now it's time to talk about this phone right here. This is the Galaxy Note 22. That's not right. This is the Galaxy S22 Ultra. And I mean, all jokes aside, this phone is essentially a reincarnation of the Galaxy Note line. And quite honestly, I couldn't be happier because I love the Galaxy Note line. So let's talk Galaxy S22 Ultra in this super sick red color. Now, before we jump into the review, let's have a little history lesson, just you and I. So if you've kept up with Samsung over the past few years, you know that they launch phones in a very cyclical way. At the beginning of the year, or sometimes early spring, they would launch the new Galaxy S line of smartphones. And then in the fall, they would reserve that launch for the Galaxy Note, which was the phone that had the bigger, the badder features, the bigger and beefier cameras. It was just the ultimate power user smartphone. Now, over the last couple of years, the Galaxy Note was put in a little bit of an awkward spot for a couple of different reasons. A couple of years ago, Samsung launched a Galaxy S20 Ultra, which was the bigger, badder S-line smartphone that had all the camera upgrades, and it was geared more towards the power users that preferred the S-line. And then they started towards the end of the year launching their foldable phones as kind of like their ultra premium ultimate device that you could purchase, the Galaxy Z Flip and the Galaxy Z Fold. And that kind of left the Note just kind of sitting there waiting for a particular launch date, still trying to relate to a diehard fan base. And Samsung, I guess, eventually got to a point where they just thought to themselves, okay, we have Ultra Premium at the end of the year, we have Galaxy S at the beginning with an Ultra, and it was getting really difficult to determine the differences between an S Ultra and the Note. So here we are, which is a phone that essentially is the combination of the two. This is a Note in every single way, except for the name, the S22 Ultra. So in this video, we want to focus on what makes this phone Ultra. And of course, being that this is essentially a S hybrid and a Note mixed into one phone, you do have the integrated S Pen. Now, if you are a longtime Note user, this experience is going to be incredibly similar to you because the features on this S Pen are basically the same as what you got on the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. But if this is your first time using an S Pen, I think you're going to find that the integrated pen has a lot of practical and also really helpful features. Quite honestly, my personal favorites are the ability to translate text in a message or an email using the pen, and also shutter control with the camera using the pen. That is actually more clutch than you might initially believe, especially if you have to take like a selfie and really extend your arm out. So the pen is here, it's still as great as you know, and if you're new to it, you're gonna love it. Not only are you getting a bigger display at 6.8 inches, you're getting a better resolution. You actually have the choice to switch between Full HD Plus and Quad HD Plus, and you're also getting better variable refresh rates on this display, anywhere from 1 Hertz to 120, which is insane. So all that basically just means that the S22 Ultra has like the best quality display. Of course, it's made by Samsung. They always make great displays, but on this phone, it is just absolutely fantastic in every single way. Now, one other thing to know about this display is it does have that edge design. So that's not necessarily a quality thing. That's more of a preference thing. It doesn't necessarily make the display any better, but hey, if an edge style display is your thing, then you're definitely going to love it. Me personally, I prefer flat. But either way, this is still a fantastic display. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 is still the star of the show here on the Ultra, and it's the star of the show across the entire line. So from a chip performance perspective, the Ultra performs really, really well. The 8 Gen 1 is a performance monster. It does run a little warm sometimes, but outside of that, it is a performance monster. Now, one thing to keep in mind with the Ultra is that if you opt for a higher storage option, anywhere from 256 to 512, you actually get a bump in RAM from 8 gigs to 12 gigs. Now that's going to be great for those of you out there that like to multitask with a lot of different applications or just leave a ton of applications open in the background. And of course, all this is paired to a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, which is the biggest across the entire range. So if the battery life is a big priority for you, the Ultra has the best battery life across the range. And I've had no problems getting through 1 to 2 days worth of use on a single charge with this phone. And of course, when it does come time to top it off, the Ultra and the Plus can support 45 watt fast wire charging, so you can top it off pretty quick. Speaking of chargers and battery life, a lot of times when we're reviewing a smartphone, we mainly focus on how fast the phone can charge, but we don't talk about the fact that nowadays when you go buy a flagship smartphone, you're not really getting a charging brick inside the box. So we teamed up with our friends at Anker, and they just dropped a new charger that I think is going to fit your particular charging needs. This is the Anker 521. It is a 40 watt USB-C charger with 2 USB-C ports. Now I really like the 521 because it is super versatile. So if you're only going to charge one device, it can push out 40 watts of max power, which by the way, that can fully charge a MacBook Air at max charging speeds. But let's say you wanted to charge 2 devices, like an iPhone or an iPad or maybe a watch and some AirPods. The 521 is intelligent enough to split current between 2 devices, keep both of those devices charging at relatively fast speeds, while also remaining safe thanks to Anker's new Active Shield charging technology, which basically means you're going to get fast charge, but it's going to help with things like preventing overheating or any damage to your device while fast charging it. Another thing I really like about the 521 is that it is roughly the same size as the 20 watt charger that comes in the box with the iPhone, but it charges twice as fast, 20 versus 40. And this is technically considered an upgrade over this little guy, the Anker 511, with the biggest differences being 2 USB-C ports here versus 1, 20 watt output on the 511, 40 watt output on the 521. So it's all gonna come down to your particular charging speeds, but I really enjoy them because they're super compact and they also charge devices relatively fast. If you have any questions, let us know in the comment section down below, but you can find links to both of these chargers in the video description down below as well. Okay, obviously whenever you're talking about a smartphone like the Ultra, you can't really skip over something like the camera system. As a matter of fact, no pun intended, the camera system is probably one of the biggest focuses of a smartphone like this. So let's get the specs out of the way because we have some, I would say, finer details to talk about. You have a lot going on here, so just stick with me. You have a 108 megapixel wide angle camera. You have a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle camera. You have 2 10 megapixel telephoto lenses, one capable of 3 times optical zoom and one capable of 10 times optical zoom. I think they opted for 2 telephotos because it helps with AI depth perception in portrait mode. We'll get to that in a second. And the whole camera system as a whole is capable of 100 times space zoom. So there are a lot of numbers, big and small, being thrown around with this camera system, but essentially what you need to know at face value is that this is an incredible camera system capable of taking excellent shots. I mean, there's really nothing that you can look at and be like, oh, we could probably use improvement in this aspect of photo taking. But the bigger picture, again, no pun intended, with the Ultra's camera system is just how capable it always has been since it essentially started with the S20 Ultra. And what I've really appreciated from Samsung is that they've taken their time year over year to not necessarily redefine the camera system, because the 108 megapixel has been a staple for the Ultra for some time now, but they keep making small refinements to just improve it year over year. And that's really been the case since 2 years ago when they dropped the 20 Ultra. Really capable, really powerful, just needed some improvements. 21 came out the next year, was really solid because of those refinements, and now here we are with 22, and it's just slightly refined over last year. Now there are some things to focus on with this camera system. Samsung did try to improve the portrait mode, and I can say that they definitely did a pretty good job. When it comes to Android smartphones and portrait mode in particular, I've always been more preferential towards the Pixel because I feel like Google does an excellent job with computational photography to separate subject and background. But Samsung is doing some pretty nice stuff with portrait mode on the S22 Ultra as well. I found that it does a really good job, like even whenever I'm taking portrait mode photos of my dog, it does a really good job of not only separating subject and background, but it also does a nice job of showing some of the finer details, like a lot of the smaller pieces of hair that stick out around his head and his body and things like that. Now, one other thing to keep in mind is that Samsung wanted to give more control to those, let's say, more professional photographers out there that might want to invest in this camera system. And there is a dedicated RAW shooting mode, but it's not built into the normal camera app. You're gonna have to go into the Galaxy store, download the RAW camera app, and that's going to give you a whole bunch of manual camera controls on what is a very capable camera system. Now, in terms of video recording, you have all your standard stuff. Full HD video, 3060 frames, 4K, 3060, and you have 8K at 24. One thing to keep in mind whenever recording video in 8K is that it is going to crop in quite a bit once you switch to 8K format. So you're gonna kind of want to work on your framing a little bit if you do want to record video in 8K, but nonetheless, you have an incredibly versatile camera system here that is capable of taking amazing photos. Samsung also wanted to focus on improving night photos on this phone, which hilariously enough, they're calling nightography. And I gotta say, it does a great job with that too, but that is gonna come down to your preference whenever it comes to how you like your night photos to turn out. What I found in using this phone for night mode versus using a phone like the Pixel 6 Pro or the iPhone 13 Pro Max is that Samsung does a really great job of increasing that shutter time to really bring in a lot of light. So what you'll end up seeing in certain nighttime photos is that they're going to look detailed, but they're also going to look very bright compared to other flagship phones on the market. So if you have more of a preference of your nighttime shots being brighter and still retaining a solid amount of detail, then you're really going to enjoy night mode photos on this phone. But that's essentially it. That is the Galaxy S22 Ultra. It is the super premium, let's go with bar style smartphone that Samsung is now going to offer, because we know later in the year we're probably going to get a Z Flip 4, we're probably going to get a Z Fold 4. So this is going to be, if you want a traditional style smartphone, the top of the line from what Samsung offers. And it is premium in every way, from the display to the fingerprint sensor to the performance to the battery to the cameras, IP68 water and dust resistance rating, integrated S Pen. Everything about this phone is awesome. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that it does start at $1,199, and that's for the 128 gigabyte base storage option. So I would say if you're interested in getting the Ultra, do your research. A lot of times Samsung offers great trade-in values if you do have a smartphone to trade in, so you can save some money on it. If you're more of a carrier purchase person, then you might want to look to see if your carrier has any financing if you're interested in this phone. But chances are you can find a deal on this smartphone somewhere, hopefully. I know I got a wicked trade-in value for one of the smartphones I had lying around on this phone, so I saved some cash on it. But at the end of the day, if you're interested in the very best that Samsung has to offer, I don't think you're going to be disappointed with the S22 Ultra. And I mean, if you have some time to wait, like 4 to 5 weeks time to wait, this red, look at this red is so sick. We had to wait a couple weeks extra for this, but I'm glad we did so we could show it to you and talk about it. I love this phone. So if you enjoyed this review, hit that like and subscribe button down below for me. Do me a favor, please. Let me know what you think in the comment section as well. And I will catch you guys in the next video. We gotta go eat some more stuff. Peace.